Welcome back. A recent incident of cows feasting in a Mui Wo supermarket highlighted environmental challenges like declining habitats. But despite land development initiatives, many argue Mui Wo is already one of Hong Kong's more sustainable communities. Social enterprise Encompass HK recently led an excursion to show how Mui Wo hits Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. SDGs are a collection of 17 global goals set by the UN 4 years ago as part of the 2030 agenda. Composting, the recoiling of organic material like leaves and vegetables into fertilizer, is regularly conducted by groups and individuals in the town. There are many cultural exchange places where people can trade old items as well. Residents also participate in regular beach cleanups and buy local produce.
You can see farmers, they were selling vegetable directly, fresh out of the farm to the residents or whoever is buying vegetables. And I think it's a great way, because if you have vegetables go from the farm and then go into all this processing center and then go into the supermarket, actually the money is not go to the farmer. The money go to the shop, go to the marketing, and you're not helping the local community. You're helping the big brands.
Well, experts estimate almost 1 billion cups of coffee are consumed daily, while 125 million people depend on coffee for their livelihoods. Despite being a major commodity, coffee is also linked to serious concerns, including deforestation, pollution, waste and child labour. Encompass HK held another event to educate people on the importance of sustainable coffee with relevance to SDGs. SDG 12, or responsible consumption, was a focus because a recent study found it is the goal young Hong Kongers care least about. Responsible consumption means understanding and supporting the right coffee beans or brands that promote sustainability. Consumers can look out for fair trade certifications, which guarantee fair labour practices and wages and meet specific environmental standards. Reusable coffee filters or capsules are also recommended to reduce environmental waste.
In terms of consumption, it's also how about post-consumption? After you drink the coffee, what can you do with the coffee grounds? So this is one thing we'll look at. We'll also look at poverty, because if you look at the whole coffee industry, and similar to other industry like fashion, actually the people who do the production, they earn the less, like the farmers, right? If you look at wine and if you look at the fashion industry, it's the same. So we'll see if as a consumer or what brand you support, the behavior you choose can affect the people downstream.
So you'll notice there's one particular expert on all of this. She is here in the studio to join us to talk about it more. Benita Chick, thanks for talking to us here. Tell me more about these SDG study results. Young Hong Kongers seem to care the least about responsible consumption. What do they care the most about, and how worried are you about that?
Last year at Chinese University of Hong Kong, they did a study of young Hong Kongers aged 15 to 30 about what SDG they care about. And the result found that they most care about environmental SDG, which includes life on land, clean water, climate change, and also some poverty. But surprisingly, as in Hong Kong as a consumer society, the people care least about is the responsible consumption, and which is a big problem in Hong Kong, as everybody knows.
You said surprising there. Why is it surprising?
Because I think in Hong Kong, shopping is such a big thing, and actually there have been quite many initiatives by different brands or different industry to promote that. So I think even for the researcher themselves, they find it really surprising. But they also find that 90% of the people that they survey actually care about sustainability. They just don't know how to do it in their daily life.
Right. So education clearly is key. Well, let's talk about Mui Wo. You picked that as a sustainable community according to the Sustainable Development Goals. How exactly has Mui Wo achieved some of these standards?
In the previous clip, Mui Wo has composting by a local ladies organization. They also have urban farming. They also have a cultural exchange place. So instead of donating some items, there's actually an exchange place. People can donate, or they can get used books or toys and stuff. This kind of things is quite difficult if you think about in Central or Wan Chai. So because of the close neighborhood of Wan Chai and also the land. And another thing is, if you see the parks and the elderly center, everything is very disabled friendly.
Right.
And which is, if you come to Central and you see the line going from all the uphill, it's very difficult for elderly and disabled people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to coffee. Lots of people are into coffee, clearly, as we've just established. Most probably don't know where it's from, though, and how it's made. How is that implied in the Sustainable Development Goals?
So actually, coffee industry covers a lot of SDG area. So if you think about the farmers, it affects poverty. If you look at the production of coffee involves milling, grinding, and it takes a lot of water, and also burning of the wood, and affect climate change, and also biodiversity. So in the coffee, for example, there's Sungong coffee, there's shade coffee, about how the different types of coffee affect the biodiversity, and also about women empowerment, gender equality, because a lot of the local farmers are female. So it actually does cover a lot of the sustainability goals, which most people don't think about it when they drink their coffee.
So, I mean, we mentioned education a moment ago and trying to sort of make sure people are aware of some of these issues that you've just raised there. Where does the line between education and marketing fall into when you're trying to gain traction and popularity among the types of brands that are sustainable or coffees that's being farmed in a sustainable way? How do you go about trying to make sure that people want to drink that sort of stuff?
Okay, so one thing is the brand itself is actually sustainable. They do certain certification of protecting the farmers. The other thing is actually how they let the consumers to know about it. So I know actually for a certain big brand in Hong Kong, they do have like reusable capsules, or they have all these SDG materials globally. But locally, the consumer doesn't know it. Even maybe some of their frontline staff doesn't know that actually some of their products are sustainably sourced. And I think Hong Kong, as a responsible consumer culture, we need to educate consumer and also brand to put that into the agenda. And that's marketing and that's education as well.
But does that come from the government? Are you trying to talk to private companies to help educate as well?
I think government, obviously government plays a big role, but as most of us in Hong Kong know, it sometimes take a long time to convince the government. So for Encompass Hong Kong, we are mostly trying to mobilize brands or individual consumer to change their behavior, and hopefully eventually we'll have certain legislation. But coffee is a little bit different from like cigarettes or alcohol because they are not like harmful to body. So it requires a different type of guidelines for it to be sustainably consumed.
So in terms of your goals then, what does success look like in terms of trying to get more of these people on board, in terms of trying to get more of them to buy these sustainable coffee brands?
I think as I say, the culture, like if you go to a coffee shop, if you go to buy your beans, do you know where those coffees are? Outside of Mui Wo, just in general, if you go to a coffee shop in Wan Chai or somewhere, do you know where the coffees are from? Are there certain certification? Are they organic? Are they fair trade? Are they protecting of some sorts? And I think you might not know. I mean, coffee is a very big topic, and not everybody know everything. But I think just the very act that you are aware of it, you are more conscious in your behavior, that will drive the behavioral pattern. And I think the individual cafes or barista, they also need to be more educated.
Right.
And then they
try and push them as well.
And then they can tell the consumer, if you drink this certain brand, for example, a direct trade or fair trade brand, you are actually protecting the farmers.
Well, I mean, fair trade itself is a branding point that's been around for quite some time. I mean, if it hasn't picked up now, at what point is it going to be popular? How do you continue to push these things when people are already aware of something like fair trade?
So fair trade is one of the options. It's not the only option in terms of coffee certification. So in coffee industry, there are
people are bombarded with all these things. It's really, really hard to know what is good and what isn't it? I would just make a general comment. Fair trade does a lot about training or protecting the farmers, but it doesn't do enough in protecting the environment. So there has been some criticism on fair trade. It's not the be all for the coffee industry. So are you saying they should get rid of the fair trade label?
I wouldn't say to get rid of. I say there are other certifications that may be more comprehensive. So for example, in overseas, there's this certification called Rainforest Alliance, which is more comprehensive, which look at both ecological and sociological impact. And in Hong Kong, a certain brand are moving towards that. And I think with the green industry and the environmental movement in Hong Kong, more people do realize that they need to be more careful when they drink their coffee.
As far as coffee consumption, of course, is concerned as well, the other problem isn't just the coffee beans, but of course the plastic cups that they're served in. When we're trying to sort of put so much emphasis on the provenance and sustainability of the bean, how difficult is that to marry with the problems that are associated with
the so we have the coffee production industry, and then now we're talking about the drinking coffee with a cup. So I think in Hong Kong you can see more people now. They bring their own cup, and certain cafe, if you bring your own cup, you have $5, $30 off. If you go to McDonald's, they don't give you a straw. I think the brands are aware, and they're trying to push that. And for example, even for the coffee capsule, certain kind can be reusable, not all of them.
Okay.
But I think the brands do try to push it, and the consumer, they need to consciously buy those, so the brands have more incentive to produce those materials.
Okay, and just to finish off then, coffee is clearly one item. Aside from that, are there any particular F&B items in addition that you are really keen to sort of push as far as SDGs are concerned?
I'm also keen to push beer and wine. For beer,
presumably less to young people.
Yeah, less to young people. For beer, it's quite challenging because beer in Hong Kong now we have all this local craft beer industry, but sometimes it's hard to know which one is sustainable, and there's no fair trade organization to protect it. Another problem you can think very clearly is if you go to Lan Kwai Fong, you see all those glasses, right? What do they do with those glasses? Are they being recycled? So that's one question. In terms of wine, there's also one thing I want to push is organic wine or biodynamic wine.
Right.
I think biodynamic wine has been around in Europe for a while, but it's not being discussed in Hong Kong well enough.
Well, something I'm sure we will continue to discuss as we move closer to this, but for now, Benita Chick, many thanks.
Thanks.
All right, that is it for this edition of the Weekly Review. Do make sure, though, you tune in next week, but for now, have a great evening. Bye-bye.